Hi, welcome to Vicky Makes and Builds. I have a special one today. Not only is this one a first on the channel, but it's rather a personal one as well. Today I'll be building this puzzle. It is by Seco and it's called the Pelican King. Now, the reason that it's a first is that it's a corkboard puzzle. And I've never even built one of these before, much less featured one on the channel. So first let me tell you a little bit about how this puzzle came into my possession, and then I'll talk a little bit about the puzzle and the artwork itself. The reason that I have some personal attachment to this puzzle is that it was gifted to me from a puzzling friend over in America called Betty. Our conversation about this puzzle first started back in 2022 when Betty left a comment on my first wooden puzzle video that I featured on the channel. She asked me if I'd ever done a cork puzzle before, and having said no, the chat then moved over from the comments into email. We exchanged conversation about this puzzle and other puzzles, and she offered to send it to me. It meant a lot that Betty was willing to part with it because I knew she had some fondness for it, but she was downsizing and she wanted it to go to a good home with someone who appreciates puzzles. I believe as well that this puzzle is also pretty rare. Initially, I was going to pay postage for her to send the puzzle across, which was generous in and of itself, but my 40th birthday was approaching that year, and instead Betty sent it to me as a gift. And I was really touched by that, so I just want to thank you, Betty, so much for your kindness. Now the time has come to build it, and I'm really looking forward to it. I love the image. Firstly, it has a fantastic theme to it. And if you know me, you'll know that fantasy is one of my biggest passions, and I love fantasy images on puzzles. When I first saw the image, it was in a photo that Betty sent to me of the puzzle in one of our early emails. And it instantly reminded me of this character from the movie Labyrinth. I love that movie. And I just think that this image is just really cool and interesting. The chap is wearing a crown, but to say that he looks kingly is quite funny, really. He honestly looks quite tired and a bit bogged down, standing in a puddle, and the pelican is pretty big. It makes it appear as though his head is slowly sinking into his body under the weight. And he's also holding an onion, which is interesting as well. Now, the artist, James C. Christensen, had this to say about the image. Now, this that I'm about to read is a quote. It's quite a long one, so I'm going to read this off my iPad screen. I hope you don't mind. There's no way I'd be able to remember it all off the top of my head. So bear with me and I will read it to you. Right, so about this image specifically, it says, based on a lot of little ideas, but pretty open-ended. It's one of those pieces I tried to keep fluid enough that it was open for individual interpretation. It was done with a lot of affection. He's a ridiculous character, but yet somehow I find him charming. You can enjoy him, even though it is at twilight, it's not a dark picture, although he's fairly immobile because this pelican has built a nest and is sitting on his head. The pelican is actually a positive symbol. In some places, it's used as a Christ symbol because the pelican is said in legend to pierce its breast with its beak and feed its young with its own blood. That's not true, but that's what has been said. Onions are also layers of meaning. They connote that there is a lot more there than meets the eye because you can keep peeling the layers back. Maybe the old man is an onion too because he looks like the onion on the outside, but if you peel back the layers, you may discover incredible life and depth that does not necessarily show at first glance. With all its potential negative images of a little man left out in the cold who thinks he's in power, but he's not, you can still love him. So I thought that was quite nice, and I thought it offered quite an interesting way to look at the image, you know, and interpret it your own way, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to read that to you. And incidentally, actually, this website that I found that quote on, it's gallery1.com. I'll leave it linked in the description. It shows different pieces of his artwork, and if you just click the next button, I discovered that there's actually another piece of art involving the Pelican King, and it's called the Pelican King and the Prince. I don't know if a puzzle has been made out of this, but it's also quite a cool image as well. And again, underneath that picture, there's a quote from James C. Christensen about that image. So yeah, I'll leave that linked in the description and you can go and have a look at it if you're interested. As far as this goes as a puzzle, I know it has whimsy pieces, not unlike a wooden puzzle, which I think will be a really fun added element. But I am hoping that the dark background in this image won't pose too much of a challenge. So anyway, let's open it up and we'll see. Oh, this is a first. I've never done a cork puzzle before, and I'm really looking forward to putting these pieces together and seeing what that's like. So, by and large, these look like normal puzzle pieces. They have normal shapes to them. That's a standard piece shape there. It's got a slightly glossy finish on the image, but really the only difference is that instead of being backed by card, it's backed by cork. And so it's a little bit thicker, and yeah, it's going to be so interesting. I wonder what it sounds like going together, but we do have standard shapes there. We've got like a corner piece there. But what we also have in this puzzle is whimsy pieces, or as it calls them on the box, silhouette pieces. So silhouettes are just like whimsy pieces, I believe. So there we've got like a crown. And then here we've got a star. I mean, they're quite big whimsies. We've got some with kind of wobbly edges, kind of random cut, but I suspect that's the edge of the puzzle. There is an uneven edge around the border of the puzzle. Same again there. We've got an extra prong. So we've got some random cut ones. Thinking that there'll be edge pieces. There'll also be some random cut where they have to accommodate the whimsies. We've got like looks like a dog, poodle or something there. And then otherwise the pieces are just the 2 in, 2 out standard shapes. Now, you can see here the ones I've just randomly picked out are quite dark pieces. There's a lot of dark pieces in this puzzle. The image is very much, there's a background, but it's very much darkened background, and then really the focus is on the Pelican King at front and centre. We've got another whimsy there that looks like a candle. Looks like a candle. The whimsies are quite big. And then we've got some long, thin ones. There's a key. Now these ones worry me because with thin areas, I'm just concerned about the possibility of damage or bending. I really want to be quite delicate with these pieces. I don't want to accidentally damage or break any. Obviously cork can be quite bitty, if you see what I mean, and I don't want little bits to crumble off. But I mean, they seem pretty sturdy. Oh no, they've got stuck together by accident. So I just have to be really careful how I handle them. But I'm looking forward to putting them together and just seeing what it's like putting a cork puzzle together. I would imagine they hold better than card, and obviously better than wood. Wood just kind of slides out. These are thicker. And there is a wee bit of give to cork. It's not like completely solid like wood. So maybe there'll be a little bit of a satisfying kind of squish to them. I don't know. We'll need to see. But I think what I'm going to have to do is sort this puzzle. So, like, really sort out kind of Pelican King from background. I think that's going to be a good start. Separate whimsies, perhaps. And, yeah, just take it from there. It's very... I don't know. It's like... I don't know. I think I'll do kind of a macro sort. Nothing too detailed. And then... just take it from there, because there's 500 pieces here, which isn't that many, but maybe a lot for a puzzle like this. So I'm thinking just a macro sort to start with, and then I can sort within the piles, and we'll take it from there. So yeah, starting the sorting now. Okay, so as I said, a very macro sort here. There's two quite large piles. That one's fairly small, that one's fairly small, and those ones I will come to shortly. So this pile is literally the Pelican King. So the main guy in the middle with the big bird on his head, all the pieces that had him on it and the bird, they are in this pile. This is pretty obvious, it's the Whimsies. Now, one thing I noticed about the Whimsies is that they are big. The Whimsy pieces are quite large, larger than your average piece. Some pieces are bigger anyway, but these ones tend to be quite large. There were some pieces that were oddly shaped, and I wondered if they were supposed to be Whimsies, but I couldn't really discern a shape from them, so I popped them mostly in that pile. And also, you know, maybe they weren't quite as big as these ones, so I thought, well, perhaps they weren't supposed to be Whimsies, perhaps they were just kind of random shapes. So I'll move on to this pile now, which is the random shape. So most of these are dark pieces because they are the edge. Now, if you look at the image on this puzzle, it's got like this wavy edge about it, you know, where the black meets the white. And so that is the edge of the puzzle. It's not a straight edge. So there are a lot of funny shaped pieces in here, and a lot of them are edged. So they tend to be dark. Some of them have a little bit of detail in, but a lot of them are just oddly shaped pieces like that likely will go up against one of the Whimsy pieces, and that's what gives it the odd shape. And as I say, there were a few that were sort of I couldn't quite figure out if they were supposed to be Whimsies, and I can't find one now, actually. I'll see if I can just find one. Like that, for example. That looks like it's maybe supposed to be a Whimsy. Looks like it might be supposed to be a cat. And it is relatively large, so I may put that one there. But, you know, it's not as obvious as, say, that, which is really clearly a dog, or that, which is really clearly a key, you know? So, yeah, so that's kind of the random shaped pieces. This is just literally pieces that are standard shape. And there were some that looked close to standard shape, but they may have had just a slightly jaggedy corner or something like that, so they ended up going into that pile if that was the case. But any just like this that were just normal shapes, they went into here. And I've already gone through that pile. So this small pile of pieces here, I just put to one side because I wanted to point something out. Firstly, there is a tiny bit of damage to some of these pieces, not very much. Now, I was gifted this, as I said, from one of my dear friends, Betty, who has had this puzzle in her possession for a good long time and had actually done the puzzle several times. Now, I would imagine taking apart a cork puzzle is not easy to do without causing some sort of, you know, stress to the pieces. And what we've got here is a little bit of the prong has come off, not the upper part of it, the underneath part. So you can still see the cork there. Oh, it's just flicked out. But also on the top of it, I don't know if you can notice it, there's actually a layer of card. So it's almost like, and if you look at a cross section of one of these pieces, it is almost like a cardboard piece has been stuck onto a cork piece, rather than just, you know, the paper with the image on being stuck straight to the cork. I don't know if that's normal for a cork puzzle, or if some are like that and some aren't, or not entirely sure, because I've never done another cork puzzle, so I don't have any point of comparison. But that was just something I wanted to point out. I mean, they do feel really sturdy. I would imagine the cardboard layered on top of the cork makes it stronger. But I just wanted to show you that. And also, just occasionally I've come across a little white patch in the prong area or across one of the pieces where it looks as though it's been bent slightly. That there you can see the lower half has come off that piece. In fact, it's entirely possible that might belong with that. I'm not sure. But as I say, I know Betty has done it several times. She has told me that she has had to repair pieces on occasion. But I just think these kinds of puzzles probably don't stand being disassembled very well and need a really gentle hand to do it. And in actual fact, given how many times she's done it and how long that Betty's had it, I've hardly found any damage at all, and it's pretty remarkable, really. But see, there's another one, look there. Just a little bit of the corks come off. And now we also have the cork puzzle equivalent of puzzle dust. Just tiny weeny bits of cork. Again, not much, but it is a crumbly substance, isn't it? So it doesn't surprise me that we've got the occasional little bit of cork crumbling off. That's just a wee bit like getting puzzle dust, I guess, in a normal puzzle. So that's how I've sorted it. So I am going to start things off with this pile here. I'll just spread them out and try and put them together. Focus on whatever draws my eye. Probably the bird. The bird's white and it's like feathery, obviously, as birds are. And you can see the texture really well. So I think probably the bird pieces will stand out. They're quite bright. So I'll maybe start with that. But in any case, this pile is going to be first. So let's get on with it. Okay, so he's looking quite cool. I like it's quite bright actually. It sort of stands out more than I expected it to. I guess because it's against a dark background. But there is a lot of dark coloured pieces, so I kind of just assumed it was going to be sort of dull in colour, but it's not too bad actually. I think it's a cool image. So my next step, I've kind of done as far as I can. I have discovered that some of the whimsies, or some of the pieces I thought were whimsies, were actually only half a whimsy. And, you know, some whimsies are made up of two pieces. So that's been interesting to find out as well. And it's been fun getting the whimsies in. It feels quite nice pushing the pieces in. They do go in quite solidly, so, and you know, you can pick sections up and move them around, which is really quite nice as well. But my next step really is to move on to the kind of random cut pieces. And I think I've sort of started to spread them out, and I've started to separate a few because there are one or two with details still on. So I've pulled out a few and popped them here. And I'm going to need to fill in a few kind of gaps around the edge of the Pelican King. So that's going to be my first task. Just flip all these over, spread them out, find as many with kind of details in as I can, like this pink ribbon here that's hanging off his arm there. And then I'm hoping that will get rid of a few of these and I can maybe fill out a few more sort of round the edges of the Pelican King and also the pelican. I mean, there's a bit of red kind of sky up there that might be easy to find. So yeah, and then I mean also the background, although it's dark, it's not completely black. You can see a bit of a wall there. and some kind of structure, part of the wall, I think, on the other side as well. So there will be things, there's a little bit around his feet. There will be things I can use, and I'm just going to use everything I can to try and get these dark pieces filled out. And then, yeah, just work out from there until I'm at the edge. And just see how long it takes. But I'm having a lot of fun with this just now. It's really, really fun. So I'm going to continue on just flipping these now. Alright, it's coming along well, but I've slowed down a lot, even though I've only got background pieces to go, and it doesn't seem like many, but it certainly is a lot when they're all pretty much black. I have been able to pick out some features, for example, pieces that have ever so slight kind of red tinge to them, which I know would go somewhere near the top where the sky is. I've got a few pieces coming together there sort of separately that I just can't attach yet. The sky was the area where I managed to get the first edge pieces in, and I've also now got a few at the bottom, but again there are some details on these edges, so that made it a little bit easier to put those in. And what I'm finding is that as I'm kind of running out of pieces with distinguishing features on, I am having to rely on the shapes. And I can, at this stage, mostly define what is an edge piece and what isn't. So whenever I have, so like, for example, that is an edge piece. And you can tell because it's got that straight line and the curved line going down, which is reflective of the edges on the box. Although they're all different sizes, they're the same shape going all the way around the edge. So that's fairly easy to distinguish, whereas a piece, for example, like this, is an irregular shape, but it's clearly not an edge. So I'm able to separate those, and I have started to do that. I've got a little pile of those irregular shapes here. Still have a few whimsies left, but what I've found is, because of the unique shape of the whimsies, I've managed to put together little sections that kind of work out from one of the whimsy shapes. So here you've got like two pieces that make up a swan, but because of the unique shape of this swan, I could see that, for example, that piece slotted in there, and that piece goes over its beak, and that piece goes behind its tail, and that one has a jagged line. And I'm able to kind of do that. I've done the same with this bird that's flying here. I think that might be a bit of the wall. We've got some lines there. Then again here, that I've no idea if that even is supposed to be a whimsy, but it's certainly an odd shape. And these kind of legs that stick out at the bottom of it means that I was able to determine that these pieces went with it. And then yet again, I've got another little section growing around that little dog there. And then, I mean, just as an example, I will put this piece in. So I could see here, I was looking for an irregular shaped piece, and I found the one just there. But I can't actually attach these yet, so it's a challenge. It is a challenge now. Now I'm doing just dark pieces, but it's making me think, and I am enjoying the challenge. It's not getting easier as I go along, it's getting more difficult, but I have got wee methods I can use to get me through. The remaining pile of pieces I had that were just the regular shapes are up here. I've not pulled out many of those, but I have spread them out. Some of them have details on. Those there, I think they probably belong up in the sky. There's one there that looks like it might be a little bit of wall. So I'm just looking at all the piles now and just trying to use these shapes to help me out to get it built. But yeah, not easy, but fun. I am having fun with it. It's an interesting challenge, but I'm having fun. So I'm just going to carry on the way I've been going, trying to distinguish edges from random cut pieces and fit them around whimsy pieces and just get pieces in as much as I can in any way that I can. And hopefully the rest will come together from there on. So I'll be carrying on like this. Well, it's done, and I have to say I enjoyed that a lot. I love how the pieces squeeze in so securely, and the fact that you can pick up little sections of the puzzle was really satisfying as well. They don't really click, the pieces, because cork is quite softish, but the card layer on the top does make the pieces super sturdy. Betty had told me beforehand in the emails that the cork had come off on just a couple of the prongs. And I have noticed that as I've been building it, but the card is really quite strong. So actually you only really notice it from the back. You don't really notice it on the front because the card just still sits straight. From the front it looks spot on, but any slight crease in the prongs or in the pieces does cause a little white line just because the pieces are so dark, so you could see that on the wee key whimsy a little bit. So you do have to be careful on the thinner pieces, you know, not to bend them or be too hashy-bashy when you're perhaps taking a piece out or pulling it apart. But aside from that, it's in really good condition, this puzzle, considering how long it's been around and the fact that it has been assembled many times. I believe Betty got this puzzle used as well. So, you know, it was used when it was passed on to me, it was used when it was passed on to her. So I think this puzzle's really stood the test of time really, really nicely, especially given how crumbly cork is as a substance. Now, I have gently pushed out the whimsies so that I could take this picture. Although, because the whimsies don't really have interlocking parts, they weren't too problematic to separate from the puzzle. Due to the secure way these pieces fit together, though, cork pieces, you can still pick this puzzle up and the whimsies won't just fall out like in a wooden puzzle. And I will demonstrate that just now. Okay. So the puzzle betrayed me and one of the whimsies just fell out, but it's the only one. There are quite a lot of whimsies in this puzzle and only one has fallen out. So, yeah, I can just peek at you through the whole puzzle. Okay, but I think my point still stands. By and large, the whimsies still stay in place. That one has just fallen out. I would be willing to bet on the first time building this puzzle I'll just put it back down. I'd be willing to bet on a first go building this puzzle that all the whimsies would have stayed in. Pieces do have a tendency to get a bit looser as a puzzle's built and rebuilt. It was this one as like a little fir tree, but that's the only one. All the other whimsies stayed firm. So, you know, it's a solid puzzle. I actually loved the whimsies. Not only were there a good and decent amount of them, but there were no two that were the same. The most similar two were two mermaids, but actually, even though they look like they're the same, they're mirror images. So they're not even exactly the same either. And I like that about this puzzle. You've got a lot of different variety of different whimsies. And that also really helped with the assembly process. There were no false fits. There was no chance of a piece going anywhere other than where it went, which helped because the dark background on this puzzle was really quite tough. But it made it a really good level of challenge, and the only time when it maybe got just slightly laborious was at the very end, when all the whimsies were in, all the random pieces were in. All I had left were gaps that were black pieces and standard shaped pieces. So there was a little bit of testing each piece going on towards the end, but that wasn't for very long. There weren't too many of those. And in the end, it was fun just filling in the gaps. Cork puzzles, I think, have to be handled quite delicately if they're going to live a good long life. But this one has stood the test of time beautifully, and I will continue to look after it so it can be enjoyed on down the line. I will be keeping it, might even do it again at some point, and I will ensure Betty that if and when it moves on from me, it will also go to a good home. And someone who appreciates it for what it is, a fun, rare and special puzzle. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed yet. I would love to hear your comments. I always love reading the comments. Please do leave a comment below if you've done a cork puzzle before, if you'd like to try one, if you've done a Seco one or even this one. I would love to hear it. In fact, when I was researching cork puzzles, I actually found one on eBay. It was a 3D cork puzzle. I think that was a Seco as well, I'm not sure now, but it was like a gingerbread house, and I thought that looked really cool. I think that would really work actually, given how solid they are when they're put together. So yeah, I definitely think there's lots of interesting cork puzzles out there. You can find them on eBay still. As I said, this one is fairly rare. There were a whole bunch of them that came out in the early 90s, not just James C. Christensen art, but other artists as well. But you can still find them, and yeah, I would recommend if you can get hold of one to give one a go, because it really is, it's quite fun to do and satisfying pieces to put together. But anyway, if you've ever done one before, please leave a comment. I would love to hear what you think. You can become a member, join the channel if you would like access to extra content. There's loads of extra content over in the members area. I'll leave a link in the description for that. And otherwise, I will just say to you all goodbye. Thank you, Betty, again so much for my lovely puzzle gift. I will take good care of it, and I've really enjoyed it. Thank you all for watching. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. I don't believe it. How can I do this if that's going to happen? Okay. So the puzzle betrayed me.